Hey guys, MarkAngelo here. Little live discussion regarding the series. There's a few questions that have been asked along the way, and I wanted to touch base on those questions before I continue the series. I'm really enjoying doing this. It's become very therapeutic for me, and I'm sure that it's helping a lot of people that can relate and feel some sort of resemblance. I mean, there's many of us in the LGBT community that have had horrible, horrible childhood. And, it's one of those things where we kind of just sweep things under a rug, never really talk about it. And then it just more and more things get added on top of it. And before we know it, we got one big mess. Somebody had asked, I was mentioning on the last video that I did, chapter 4, dinner. Rice with lentils, corn, veggies, potato, veggie, sausages, and some pineapple. Anyway, somebody asked if, because I had mentioned that the guy Marin who sexually abused me for 4 years, karma really got a hold of him, and he was like literally chopped up bit by bit, and they wanted me to explain further. He had some sort of medical condition. He was a drinker. He drank beer every day and lots of it. He also was a painter, so he dealt with a lot of chemicals, paint removers. And I don't know if it was diabetes or some sort of disorder that they literally had to like first cut his arm medically, obviously. I know one went with a knife and chopped it off, although it would have probably been a good thing. God forgive, but people that do that to children deserve a lot. So little by little, they were just chopping him up. He lost an arm. I think he lost both his legs, and then eventually he died. Funny thing is, I hold no ill feeling towards him. I don't know if it's because I've worked through, or probably I haven't. I don't know. Maybe this series will help me work through all these childhood traumas. But I forgave him. I forgave him. I feel that parents need to do more to protect their children. And after the fact, my mom said, "Well, why didn't you say anything?" Well, I don't think a child should be put in that predicament. Why didn't I say anything? Well, why wasn't I protected a little bit more so that could have never happened in the first place? And again, I hold no ill feelings towards my parents. I don't hold any ill feelings even to the guy who did this to me, because I believe that everything in our lives, happens for a reason, and it doesn't kill us, makes us stronger, literally. There's a lot of things in my life that I kind of, and I'm sure we all do this, kind of like put away in a compartment, never to be seen again or heard. It's a matter of fact, I have so many periods in my life where I don't remember. And I've done so much in my life that there's just like, it's hard for me to actually remember every single thing. Periods that it's just like a blank. So obviously I could have put that part behind, but it happened for so long, it was kind of hard to eliminate. The video that I made last kind of ended abruptly. I don't know what happened. I used YouTube's recording program and just froze. I think somebody sent me a text during the time that I was doing it. It just froze, how things happen. But I want to kind of like wrap up chapter 4 on this live feed. And if there's anyone that has any questions while I'm doing this, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. I really, and it's funny because I disassociate the younger me, female me, from this person that I created, Mark. And somebody asked, did you create Mark to protect Maritza? And that's not the first time I heard that. And I'm pretty sure that I did. And I think not only did I create Mark to protect Maritza, I think I also created Mark to protect my mother against my father and against all men that came into my mother's life. You know, it was just like I was the little protector. And, you know, people want to put stigma and labels on diagnoses, but the human mind does things to protect itself. I believe also that gender dysphoria is a part of a protection mechanism. And many of us don't want to go into that. They're like, no, I've always been a man and I'm born in the wrong body. There's a lot of research on there's no such thing as a male or a female brain. And as much as they want to believe that, and you know, it's fine, whoever wants to believe that, I don't think there's more to it than that. And I truly believe that a lot of the stuff stems from trauma. I mean, I know that there are happy LGBT people out there, maybe grew up in a wonderful environment, but if we do the math and we really took a survey or a toll or a census, we would see there are more unhappy people than happy people. And a lot of them either were sexually molested. And that doesn't mean that you became gay because you were sexually molested or you became this because whatever. It's just a way of us as humans coping and coping mechanisms. I obviously became attracted to women because this choice to be with a guy was like repulsive to me because of what I saw my father do to my mother, what I was done to for 4 years. I also had this enormous fear of having a baby. I don't know where that came from. And I think it was one of my aunts who was trying to be helpful, but she didn't realize she really screwed me up. It was like, you don't want to go to bed with guys because you get pregnant. That's very painful. You know, and scaring me to death about not going to bed with guys. It's like, don't worry, I ain't going to go to bed with no guy. And if that's painful, this vagina is never pushing a child out of that hole. So, you know, and then she also tried to scare me with the fact that penetration hurts. But it's okay because you're trying to give pleasure to your husband. I'm telling you, sometimes some thoughts mean well, but they really screw us up. I always wonder if my standoffish attitude, not wanting to be with people, and I did this from a very young age. I would get in my room, close myself up in there, couldn't lock the doors. If y'all seen the series, and we weren't allowed to have locks in our house. And I would just sit in my rocking chair and I rock. And my imagination would just, I'd soar. I'd be anything, anywhere that I wanted to be. Music, whatever it is that this little head could create. I'm very. I look for relationships, healing. You know, the last relationship I had, and Lena, I found it to be very healing because I found that fear, that angst, that anger, that hatred that I had towards guys kind of went away. Oh my God, me too, says Nan. Did you ever love to do that? Yes. But mostly it was my rocking chair. And my father got a clue when I was little in Cuba. And I would like rock, you know, I'd stand up rocking, or if I was sitting in the chair, I'd rock. So he built me a rocking chair, and he also built me a swing that used to hang right in the front door, and I'd sit there and just watch everybody go back and forth on the street while I was rocking. And I would sing as I rocked. It was very soothing. It is very soothing. Actually, I wish I had a rocking chair because that's, to me, that is the most soothing. There is no anti-anxiety pill. There is, nothing that will take away the anxiety, the angst like a good rocking chair does. I mean, I love to rock in a rocking chair. And it has something to do with our neurological impairment. There's another thing I've talked about often, and many in the trans community, our nervous system is compromised. Many of us show it through the Asperger's. Many of us show it through the antisocial skills. It's just a slew of different things that have not been actually researched, studied by the doctors. Instead, they just fill us up with chemicals and cut us up. The doctors, instead, they just fill us up with chemicals and cut us up. And you know what? Fine and dandy. I love who I created. I look at myself every day now since I've been on testosterone for a month, and I'm excited to see the changes again, because this allows me to escape the world that I hated. I didn't hate Maritza. I just didn't like the life that Maritza had and what it all stood for. Maritza was a wonderful human being. I mean, she would have made somebody a great wife, a great husband, a great wife, and great mother. You know, had this turned out differently, but they didn't. So this right here is comfort. This right here allows me to navigate in a world that, you know, I would navigate normally. I mean, I remember living as Maritza, and I started getting stronger, and I started seeing my physique change. That was so empowering, because before it was just fluffy, puffy, overweight. I mean, I wasn't obese or anything like that, but I was always overweight. I always had to deal with a stomach, which, going back, was a massive trauma that my mom caused me, because I was always chubby. Well, what would they expect? They overfed me. At first, I was like a rail, and I wouldn't eat because I didn't like food. Literally, I hated the food. I hated all the meats and stuff they prepared, all the oily. It was just, I didn't want to eat. So they were all worried because I wasn't eating. So I was a rail, and then they started injecting me with B12 and force feeding me to the point that I got fat. Well, it made me fat, and then my mom's having a conniption fit because I wouldn't fit into the clothing. She would take me to the store, and she wanted to like print me up and make me all. I was like her doll. She would paint my hair. She would dye my hair like at age 8 or 9, and make me wear all these things. And then if the thing didn't fit the way she wanted it to fit, like I was a doll, she would punch me in the stomach and tell me that I was too fat. Hence, probably the eating disorder that I've had all my life. And I've also found out that there's a lot of trans people that have eating disorders. You know, I put 2 and 2 together, you know, and it's important for us to be able to see these things, to observe them, to understand ourselves is so important. So anyway, let's see, femininity sucks, feminine ruins lives. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's one of the reasons where when I see trans women want to go all, you know, into the dresses and all this stuff and just like become even more feminine than most women can actually or actually are, it repulses me. I think that was the struggle that I had with Lena. It's like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be all whatever. I love you the way you are. It doesn't mean that I see you as a man. Doesn't mean anything. It's just like that whole, and I guess because I've been with lesbian women and not lipstick lesbian women that, you know, they weren't all about the makeup and all this stuff. And it was just like, you're just being. That whole femininity was created by men so that women could parade themselves around them, so they could be sold as slaves, you know. So let's put the lipstick on and let's put the little dress on, you know. And that just drove me insane when my mom would, you know, make me wear certain things that I totally disliked. Couldn't stand half of the things she made me wear. And then when I started to rebel, I wanted to wear whatever I wanted. I was shamed. I was made fun of. You know, that's not cool. It's not cool at all. Very, very sad. And so, you know, we're lucky enough to have good, able bodies. Yeah. That's my struggle in the trans relationships that I've had. It takes hours to get ready and putting all these things. It's like, why? And I understand why, obviously. I'm not a moron, but it's like, why do that? You know, why feed into the stereotypes that the world wants us to feed? I build muscle, not because that's what the world wants to see, because there's plenty of guys out there that are a rail. I do it as a protection because I have found myself in situations that if if I didn't appear as alpha as I do, men love to fight. Men look for any excuse when then testosterone kicks in to fight. So if you don't have, like the birds that make themselves look bigger so that the lions don't eat them, I would be toast. I would be toast. So I do this, not because it's a stereotypical thing. I do this as a form of protection. That's why I got back on tea. Because it's a cruel world out there. And I've got to protect myself. I've got to at least look the part so that people don't mess with me. Let me get back to where I left off on chapter 4, unless anybody has questions. But, it's when my parents got divorced in El Paso, I stayed with my mom. I was working, finishing high school, bought my car and all that stuff. And my mom had somebody else in the house already. My mom typically, and I don't want to say I'm ashamed of this, but it's what I grew up with. And I understand why she did it. So I don't blame her. My dad was a jackass. He beat her up. He wasn't loving. My mom needed affection. My father didn't know how to give affection. The only form of anything that he would do was violence, and screaming. So my mom was looking for love, even while being married. And my mom had a bunch of complex. She had mentioned earlier, she had a thyroid tumor, cancerous, and they removed it at the age of 8. They had to install nails or some sort of screws on her legs because her bones became very brittle. She was a very sick woman throughout her entire life. And so, she married my dad thinking no one else would want her, but she wasn't in love with him. So her constant search for love and trying to find love led her to cheat on my dad. Many of times, she would leave me in the car because she'd take me with her. She would leave me in the car and go meet up with a guy. Here I am, a kid in the car going in some freaking ass weird neighborhood while my mother did whatever. And like I said, I love her and I understand why she did it, but she doesn't realize that really messed with my life, and the way I think of relationships. I mean, there's just so much. And then my dad, I remember as an adult, I was with Violet. I think it was Thanksgiving. I think so. So Thanksgiving reunion, we all get together and then bake pork. And we never did Thanksgiving typical Cuban household. And Violet invited her brother, her half brother. The man thing, my father, his cousin. I mean, they were all just like, they started some sort of fight and started picking or fighting with Violet's brother. And they pull out a machete and they start chasing the guy. And I'm like, this ain't happening. Are people freaking crazy? It's just so much crap. I used to be ashamed to bring friends of mine, to my house. With my mentally retarded uncle, who would break every television that we owned and radios. My father yelling, my mother and her neurotism. It was like I was ashamed. I think maybe one of the reasons I learned to be a loner, because like I'm not gonna bring people to this household and have them witness what I witness every day. All I'm telling people is, gosh, if you're gonna have kids, equip yourself with the capability of being a good parent. Anybody could get a license out there to drive you require a license to drive a car. You require a license to own a gun. You require a license for just about anything except having children. They don't teach you anything in school about having kids. They don't teach you any psychology. And there's so much to learn. Oh my God, when I went to OT school and even taking my prereqs, I had to take a lot of psychological courses. I learned so much about me through these courses. And I learned how messed up I was raised. And I know all of us out there ton of people. Very few people grow up in normal, non-dysfunctional households. We live in a very messed up world. But gosh, you know, I hope that people start to really realize what they're doing to their children, what kind of, you know, upbringing they're doing that will create a messed up individual. And it doesn't always have to be some serial killer. I mean, it's just, you know, narcissism is, it's everywhere. I mean, with all this social media and stuff like that, we'll all become a bunch of narcissists, you know. It's really sad. I'm trying to think where else I want to go with this chapter 4. There's a little hurt child inside of me. And that hurt child developed an adult to protect them. And I think that's what Mark is. Mark is not only the brute force, the, hey, don't mess with me, or, the, you know, I would protect Lena against people. And it's not just, you know, it's also an adult that keeps everything in order, an adult that doesn't let anything bad happen. I mean, Mark is the program that was created to keep little Manicita safe, you know. And the first time that Mark kind of became fully alive was when Maritza was bodybuilding. And I was taking steroids and my body just took off. I mean, I was like, you know, I was a force to reckon with. And I was like, now no one's going to hurt me. No one's going to hurt me. Crazy stuff. Anyway, being in El Paso, my dad ended up moving because they were getting split up, divorced. My dad moved back to Florida, moved in with my mother's mother. My grandmother would always tell my mom, it's better for someone to love you than for you to love them. You've got to, at least if you have somebody in your life, because a woman needs a man. I was told that too. You need a man in your life to take care of you. Wow, intense. A cycle of hate. Lots of it. Lots of it. So that's why my mom married, because my mom was going to pull out of the marriage, and my grandmother would not allow her to. My grandmother was a very sweet woman, but boy. And then my grandmother was also at the age of 16, got pregnant. They used the daughters. Well, you can say, let me see here. Bambushka says, well, you can say that same thing about some TS men. All this dumb tattoo, which they think makes them macho. Not 90% of real men don't have tattoos. That's what I talked about earlier. You came late to the party. Did they ever say you have to love yourself? Who's they? As for alpha male, sorry, you're not. Most real men are caring and sweet, with the exception of uneducated men from broken homes. Babushka, you know, you're Cuban. I've read some of your comments. You don't know me, and you have no right to judge me. You want to get to know me, start this series from the beginning to now. Right now, I'm just doing a wrap-up. You sound like a very angry woman, the same kind of angry woman that my mother was. It messed up my life. It's a cycle, a never-ending cycle. So I never claimed to be a man. I'm trans. And the only reason I created this character is because women like you in the Latin community, in the Cuban community, yeah, just laugh. You know nothing, and you want to judge. And I refuse to allow anyone to judge that has their head up their ass. I won't allow it. I'm exposing myself, my life, fully here to have you, because you go to my ex, or my wife, because she's still married to me, channel, and starts talking all sorts of crap when you don't know diddly. I got tattoos even as a female. Females get tattoos too. You know, there's no such thing. I mean, there are females that are very dominating, you know. There are males that are not dominating. Gender is a byproduct of the society that we live in. Stereotypical BS. Nano says, your family, did they ever say you have to love yourself first before you love someone else? No, I mean, they never, you know, Cuban families tend to really, I mean, they're cohesive in their own, in a certain way, but at the same time, there's just a lot of arguments, a lot of anger, and it's, you know, a lot of them. I mean, you see it in Miami now. You know, you've got these people that were displaced from their country, and Castro sold them a lie, and they're still very bitter and very angry about everything because they had to leave everything behind. Like my parents, my mom was well-to-do, you know, as I mentioned in my one of my last videos. But when Castro came, took everything away. So anything that resembles communism, anything that resembles, like, they hated Kennedy. You know, you've got this, like my stepdad, which I love to death, but they have this like real Republican nature about them. You know, he's hardcore Republican nature. You know, Babushka, I don't like to go off on an angry tangent, but you come here and you're like throwing rocks at me when I'm exposing myself. I'm becoming vulnerable, saying things about my life, and I don't appreciate you coming in here. If you're gonna come in here and be my guest on my channel, behave like such. I don't know if anybody taught you any manners. This is not your playground for you to throw rocks at me. So behave accordingly. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. And I get angry easily. I do, because I will not put up with anybody messing with me, especially when I'm at my most vulnerable state. I was messed with my entire life. And every time I expose myself, like I did with, you know, my wife, Linda, I opened my heart like I never opened my heart to anyone. And in the end, I got screwed up, and I knew it was going to happen. I knew as soon as she healed, you know, I knew that eventually the longing for her kids was going to be greater. And that's normal, you know, and I always encouraged her to seek after her kids. And I even said tons of time that I would step down. But, you know, I feel like I opened myself up since the last time, which was with Denise. And if you guys want to know that, I think it's in chapter 1 or 2. And I still got hurt. You know, even though it was mutual, it still hurt to realize that I had to put myself second and allow her kids to have their dad. And I don't know how they're going to work that out, because, you know, hopefully they'll accept Lena as Lena. I want to read this Babushka's comment again. When you can say the same thing about some TS men. No one, I mean, it's like one of the things I mentioned is like that I created these muscles, you know, for protection. You know, it's like I don't have the tolerance for ignorant people. Never in my entire life have I ever had tolerance for dumb, ignorant people. People that just flap their gums, they just talk, you know, and they make no sense, you know. It's unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. Anyway, where was I? So did I answer your question, now? They never know. They never really. It was like my mom always put me down. You know, Latin parents, especially Cuban parents, can be hard asses. You know, to them, being a parent means sternness. Like I said before, my father would say, "Los niños hablan cuando las gallinas mean." Children will speak when chickens pee. And according to what I've learned, chickens never pee, so children never got to talk. We didn't have a voice. I didn't have a voice. I didn't have a say. I didn't have, you know, it was their rules, their ways. It was never like a family, let's get together and let's see what we're going to do. It was like barking orders all the time, you know. And to this day, I mean, my father doesn't drink anymore, but now he's like a professional patient going to the doctors every day because, you know, he screwed himself up with all the drinking. And to this day, when you talk to him, he doesn't listen. That's one of the things also that drives me insane about my parents. You talk to them, they're not listening. They can't wait to put in another word to say something. And they're like, did you just hear anything I just said? They don't listen. And I grew up with that, not having a parent, you know, like I would get home from school and I would show them the grades or I needed help with homework. None of that. I feel sorry for you. Wake up and smell the coffee. I'm Cuban and I have the most caring parents and grandparents. They never accepted me being a lesbian. So you feel sorry for me and wake up and smell the coffee. What stupid remark is that? You're Cuban and have the most caring. Yeah, I'm not saying that every single Latin parents or Cuban parents are uncaring, but they have a very different way about them because of the kind of life they led. You're very lucky they accepted you being a lesbian. My mom never accepted me as a lesbian. It was like we shamed them. That's how they looked at it. You're lucky. But not everybody is as lucky as you, Babushka. What kind of name is Babushka anyway? Si eres cubana, ¿qué nombre es eso, Babushka? ¿Qué cosa es un Babushka? Suena más alemán que otra cosa, o polaca. You know? It's like, yeah, so you're lucky. Your parents accepted you. I didn't have that fortitude. As a matter of fact, when I was getting ready to transition, my mom goes, well, just stay a lesbian. It's like, just stay a lesbian. So now you're okay with me being a lesbian. And to this day, she still doesn't. Actually, she was getting better at it till I got into a relationship with Lina. She was accepting me. And then when we started the stupid detransition thing, everything went backwards. Nan Jayo says, Babushka, most kids all over the world aren't accepted as gay or lesbian by their family. That's right. I don't know what this Babushka person is. You know, I've seen some of her comments on Lina's page. And it's like, putting me down. It's like, who the hell this woman thinks she is? Do you even know me? Are you certified in some sort of something to give you the right to judge me and tell me things? Look at your own life, Babushka. That's crazy. I can't stand. Oh, no one's putting me down. No one's putting, I feel sorry for you, you say. Wake up and smell the coffee. Well, no, you upset me. You know, you come in here, I'm exposing myself. This is a series of exposing my life, trying to understand myself. And then, of course, I'm going to get defensive with you. You know? I mean, every single comment you made on this thing, all these dumb tattoos. I mean, what is that? Why are you calling my tattoos dumb? You know? I mean, I know you're a lesbian, you hate men, but sweetheart, I'm a female. I got a vagina. Okay? So the hatred that you have towards men, you know, push it away a little bit. Just because I look like the enemy that you feel, you know, I'm not. You know, my sister is a lesbian and loves me to death, you know, and had a hard time at first, but then she started understanding why I did this. So, you know, let's all try to get along here. Let's all try to be a little civil, a little understanding and caring, and have a little compassion and leave the judgment stone out the door. You're more than welcome to be in my channel. You're more than welcome to ask me questions, but please do not throw stones. I mean, I don't do very well with that. I don't. And I'm not going to excuse myself for it because it's my coping mechanism. All of my life, I've been ridiculed. All of my life, I've been told how fucked up I am. All of my life, I've been judged. Damn, if I'm going to allow anybody to judge me now, you know, at 54 years of age. You know, it's like, you want to talk to me civilly? I'll give you the shirt off my back, but don't come in here throwing stones. Exactly. Babushka, you are the one watching Mark's video. Why are you telling him to take it easy? Exactly. I mean, I'm exposing myself here, you know, in ways that I would never expose myself. But I want people to understand me and why I behave the way that I do. I mean, even Lina apologized. Have you watched the apology video? Because you were tearing me down, Babushka, on her channel, because she was like going all radical on me, you know, because she was upset, angry, hurt. Lina is still in love with me, as I am still in love with Lina. But there's just so many complications in our life. Nothing unbeknownst to her and I, but just the whole children thing, the whole she's new in her transition. But if you watch her latest videos, you see what she thinks of me, because there has never been another human being that has been as kinder and as loving towards her as I have. You know, so please, you know, just, there's no need for you to get me all riled up. And yeah, I have to take responsibility for my action. But like I said, damn, if I'm going to let anyone come to my channel, to my home, to my face, to judge me and ridicule me when I've already had enough of that in my life. So that ain't going to happen. So anyway, totally went in the direction I didn't want it to go. But Babushka set the tone. How many of you put, don't play the crying card? Who's playing the crying card? Tortillera mierda. No joda. ¿Qué playing? ¿Qué cosa? A few years ago, you were putting down the LGBT when you decided you wanted to be a woman. That was all based on the whole concept when Lena and I were doing whatever we were doing for the kids. And it was Lena's play. That my sister got really upset at Lena because of that. It was all the religious thing, which I've never been religious. I'm spiritual. Like I said before, I would do anything and did anything for Lena. So I'm playing no crying card or anything like that. A lot of the stuff that was done to Lena for her kids. The whole religious BS. I mean, so out of character. I'm a people pleaser. That's what I do. Lol. Babushka, seriously, you've got issues. You've got issues. And you've got the nerve to come to my channel goodbye. Put up enough. Don't need assholes like that. Enable user. Okay. So, no more Babushka. I just did. I banned. Because, you know, I don't need idiots like that. You know. And, you know, I get that from some of the lesbians. You know, they really have. I had a boss. She was, you know, a lesbian, and she found out that I was trans, and man, she couldn't stand my ass. You know, there's this hatred and this anger, you know, totally. Oh, I know. I gave her more time than I should have. But, you know, that's how it goes. There are people out there, they're miserable. I'm sure she's, you know, a miserable person. Hates men. You know, whatever. But don't have to worry about her anymore because I blocked her. I hit the comments and I'm seeing. Let's see if I can remove her. How do I block somebody from the channel completely? Put user in timeout. Unhide user on this channel. No. Anyway, I won't put up with crap, people. I'm sorry. You know, I'm the nicest guy, and I will give you the shirt off my back. This is so weird. But I won't put up with abuse. Nope. Those days are way over, and you know, I'm a kind, loving person. I mean, then I could tell you. And with all the fuck yous she gave to me when we were in the relationship, I never once told her that. I never once returned the FUs. But, you know, somebody I don't know is coming in here and trying to, like, you know, react the way they're reacting and pointing their fingers at me and doing whatever. Ain't gonna happen. I ain't gonna put up with it. Anyway. I kind of lost my train of thought. So I was just wrapping up chapter 4. The army was I was trying to run away. I had left the house. My mom, I was having the boyfriend. The boyfriend was trying to tell me what to do, when to come in. When I was in high school, teenager, my car would go out and come back. Oh, you can't come back at a certain time. You have to do this. I'm like, excuse me, sir, you're not my father, you know? And so I couldn't put up with it anymore. So I took off and went to Miami and moved in with my grandmother, which my father was staying with my grandmother as well, my mom's mom. And then I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with that. I felt like I was like in a cage. They wouldn't let me go out. I couldn't do anything. So watching Private Benjamin one day, I go, oh, you know what I could do? I could join the army. Get out of this hellhole. I could join the army. Little did I know that it was going to be worse. Thank you, Kim. Be well, prayers. Thank you. So I joined the army, and that was like, oh my God. I was 17 years old. I actually had to forge my parents' signature because my mom wouldn't sign for it, neither would my father. I was like, oh, really? You ain't going to sign for it? I already had a trauma with them not wanting to sign a document. I had made it into this production called Viva El Paso, which very few people were able to get in. I had a beautiful voice as a female, and I got into the production. But in order for me to be able to go and travel with the production, they had a sign for me to go. They wouldn't do it because they wanted me to stay working at his restaurant, my dad's restaurant. And I was like so pissed because there was a once in a lifetime opportunity and they didn't let me go. So when the army thing came along, they wouldn't sign for it, neither my mom or my dad. I'm like, no worries. I used to know how to sign my mom's signature so well because in school sometimes if I didn't do well, I would forge a little, you know, is it the what's it called? The report cards. So I joined the army without their approval. I was 17. And that was a crazy time of my life. I hate to get upset. I really do. It's like, but I have no tolerance. Gosh, no tolerance for people that are they love drama and they love to just poke at people and make people feel bad. I'll be sure to ban her from my channel. I get out going to her and just block. I'm an open book and I will tell you whatever you want to know, but don't come judging and don't come throwing stones. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and go. It's been 42 minutes since I've been rambling. I want to go into other deeper things in the next chapter, chapter 5. I'll do that tomorrow. Thank you, Nana. And not only just brave, I'm becoming very vulnerable. And that's why I got so upset when this person is just like talking crap, you know? But anyway. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, I love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Thank you, Nanu. Thank you. Who was the other? Kim I. And Babushka. You know, take a little chill pill. Stop being so accusatory and so argumentative. You know, find that little spot in your heart and, you know, just chill. All right. All right. Good night, guys. Love you. Love yourselves too. Bye-bye.